Less fishermen, oh fisheries, less drama, less problems, less pressure, it's calmer. This podcast, we hear how it's done. Lake book games and how do they run. Churn Pool operates lake exclusive in the Cotswolds, where the carp are elusive. An old pit once fished for its trout. Look out, Tom Pollard is about.
Welcome to the Fishery Fastlane podcast. We're here in the Cotswolds with Tom Pollard, who runs an exclusive bookings model on one of the pits around the park. Now, Tom, I first heard about your venue, I think at Sparshot. We were due to net it.
Yes, yeah.
I think we chickened out, or did they net it one year before?
We have had it netted in the past, I think a couple of times from Sparshot.
Okay.
It's just not always been very successful.
No.
So the problem with my place is it's like an egg box. So it's one of the earlier pits, is pit number 8. So quite one of the earliest pits that were dug in the area. I think they were just in and out. And it's quite rare. The underside is not like if you were digging a lake now, you'd probably make it nice and nettable. You'd look forward to the planning of the fishery management, but that was in and out, excavators in.
Wet dug job, was it?
Yeah, then it used to be right out to the boundary. Obviously, you've been in before. Imagine it was just a field to start with, and they dug right out to the boundary. It was a big square. And then over time, when my father first got his hands on it as such, there was backfill coming in from all over the place. Right. First, they needed to make some bank space. And so it was backfill. So there's lots of like little channels and bays and things like that. Yeah. So it does make the netting hard. Yeah. So it hit a couple, and they're just varying degrees of success.
Right.
And lots of cursing. And lots of cable ties as well.
It was before it becoming a carp fishery, it was a trout fishery?
Yep, that's right.
And what was it? Were you involved when it was trout fishery?
Yeah. What
was that landscape like? Why did you transfer hands of?
Well, so it goes on. So I've grown up at Churn Pool. So my dad had it before I was born. When he first had it, my mum was pregnant with me when he first got his hands on it. And it was a trout fishery. That was trout fishing in the time. So 40 odd years ago, it was really popular. That was what the gentleman's sport as such to do. I guess it was like carp fishing is now. So you can't get enough people through the door. But with probably changing times in the sport, changing water conditions as well, I guess it does lead to it a little bit. But my passions are the carp fishing. So there's always been a gradual change. There's always been carp in there. There's been a gradual change. And when I sort of took the reins as such, that was it. Trout fishing on the head.
And today, what's in there? What's the stock today to give that kind of flavour of what?
So stock-wise, we run at about 120 fish. So it's 4.5 acres, 120 fish, everything from sort of mid-40s downwards. There's 4 fish that go over 40 pound. So most of the time at the moment, they're pushing on nicely. Plenty of 30s, plenty of 20s.
Is they old stock? Those are big ones?
Yeah. So over the years, there's been several different introductions of fish sort of down the line. There's some, actually, but when my dad first had it, so, 42 years ago, there was some carp in there. Then they put carp in straight away, a few of them. And then we used to get stock into trout like all the time, like every week or every couple of weeks for the trout fishing. And I remember one time I must have been 7 or 8. I was just coming in, probably this time of year, coming into the spring. And the delivery of trout came in. You have to know 50 or 100 trout. And there's another little tank next to it with about 6 of these little brown. I didn't know what carp was at the time. They're like these little brown. I thought, are they brown trout? And I never seen really see that. I think there was 7 or 8. Is that brown trout? Is that brown trout? He said, no, they're carp. So then off they went in as well. I can't remember one of the trout farm we used to sell carp. It's a Surrey trout farm maybe. But right. He got them there, obviously. And they've done well. They didn't grow that big. They sort of topped out at sort of upper 20s, low 30s, but they're probably 40 odd years old now. Well, they're 35 years old, should I say. So they're not the oldest ones in there. And then over the years, you've been putting lots of new stock in as well. I'm a small batch stocker, so I like, I don't like 50 fish at a time. I like 6 or 10 or 12. So you get a nice mix of fish, different year classes, mix of fish, different scale patterns, strains. It's sort of drip them in over the last few years. I don't stock heavily. No, 4.5 acres. Some people would put 200 fish in maybe, but it's not really my cup of tea.
No.
I always need a little bit of space to grow as well.
Yeah.
But it's a good mix of fish.
Yeah, so your market is the holiday anglers, groups of, is it families?
Lots of families.
Yeah. Are they always anglers, or is it?
No, not always anglers. So I have a base of just like groups basically. So we work on an exclusive use basis. So when you come in, whoever's booked it gets the whole lake to themselves. There's no day tickets, no season tickets, no week tickets as such for anyone. Not like Joe Bowles can't knock on the door and come in as such. I work on exclusive use. So the lake, sometimes it's one person have the lake to themselves for a week or a weekend. We get lots of families though, which is really good, especially more so now. Lots of female anglers as well, which is good to see. You know, a good rise in the trend of that. Lots of children, you know, especially like the 8 to 14 range, get lots of children, which is a good way of getting them in without having to go to like a mainstream fishery. They might feel a bit under pressure. But it works well, like from my point of view.
How do you get your bookings? How do you put yourself out there? Is it word of mouth? Or
yeah, so probably 9 out of 10 of my bookings are repeat customers.
Right.
So we've opened up a few years ago, and most people come on at least once or twice a year. I have some guys that have 5 bookings a year. They'll have 5 weekends, for instance. So most of it's repeat visitors. Some people come in through, you know, Google, the website, Facebook pages, that sort of thing, or mostly, to be honest, it's recommendation. Like I've got a group there now. Their friend originally came about 10 years ago. Their friend came, they sort of goes down the grapevine and they visit as a group now, which is good. But it's self-seeding is probably the best word. I've often not advertised in a long time.
With it, I guess Airbnb and stuff like that, you've not need to go in there or anything like that. I guess with a bookings model, you do get the benefit of having parties that aren't necessarily anglers, and if you get a break, you can give them some grub. Yeah,
exactly that. So we have every year we have certain groups that come, they don't fish. So we have a group that just like to walk their dogs. There's lots of places locally you can't take dogs. So they come, we've got a little lodge there, a couple of bedrooms in the lodge. So they come, have the lodge, and they have their morning coffee outside, and they're happy as Larry.
Yeah.
We get dog walkers. We get there's an antiques dealer, I think it is, from Belgium comes across. They come every couple of years. There's another couple of, we've had all sorts of children's parties, we've had wedding receptions, 50th, 60th, 70th birthday parties. So they book it for the weekend. So when it's not being fished, I do what I said to you the other day, when you drop some food off, they get a big sack of pellet and a big scoop. I just say, feed the fish. Every day, feed the fish. Because when it's having a break like that, it's ideal. Obviously, the fish aren't pressured at all. That's the time to get the feed into them and just, it's not just putting the size on, it's to make them healthy.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing. Because when you've got a fishery, it's hard to feed it and have it fished at the same time.
Yeah.
So, especially like if I was going fishing, for instance, and it had just been fed by whoever owns the fishery, it doesn't always put you on the dampener, but you think, they've just had a load of grub, 25 kilos up the other end of the lake. And, you also don't want to disturb them while they're feeding on that either, because that's for their benefit.
No, we've had Rich Seeds on the podcast, Lake Carpathia, and part of his management plan is feed, and that's a big part of what he does. And it was really interesting speaking to him and how his feeding has impacted the stock. And I always thought a lot of the concern I get from my customers who I sell feed to is the anglers, how they perceive the feeding. And that is, I guess, a sticky point. But then when you look at it from a management point of view, I'm the same. I don't know how I'd feel about somebody feeding fish in front of me when I'm fishing. But then if you're managing the fishery, your stock's your priority, and that's your asset, isn't it? It's just for selling them.
You want big fish, they've got to be fed. But not to the detriment of the anglers. It's got to be put in there somewhere as well, the anglers' catch rate as well. So, yes, it is. But obviously, Rich is getting the mix right because he's got some massive fish in there. You see like some of the fish pictures, they're fantastic. They're really healthy. He's obviously putting plenty of the right feed in. Lots of happy anglers too. So I'd say he's got it on the nose. Whatever he's doing there, working.
Yeah. How does the booking model then? How did you fall into that model? Would you look at something like a day ticket, and why wouldn't something like a day ticket suit what you've got?
So I'll run you through the transition slightly because it'll explain it a little bit better. So we used to be a trout fishery. Used to be really busy. So fly fishing, guys come in and stock it every week. And it's good. Problem is over the summer we get probably from end of May, June, July, August, even part of September, the water temperature's too high to stop the trout successfully. I like catch and release. Lots of trout fisheries don't do catch and release. Some fisheries you go to, you see the trout in the bin because you have to kill the trout and the guys don't want to take them home, so they end up in the bin, and it's just not my cup of tea. So I like to run the trout fisheries as catch and release, but then because the water temperature is so high, all the fish just turn over anyway, so it's not really ethical fishery management, putting fish in there to die or effectively put them into an environment they can't survive in. And so 3 months, initially 3 months over the summer. So I think it's June, July, August, where we shut the fishery for trout fishing, and we did a syndicate of 10 people to start with. And did, 10 people for 3 months, course for ship. I think at the time it worked out £100 each. So this is 20 odd years ago, probably. £100 each for the 3 months over the fishing. And that worked. We did that for the first year, went back to the trout fishing in September, another 9 months. It worked fine. And then the next year I extended it slightly because the trout fishing didn't switch on quite as early. And the guys are really enjoying themselves. But even with those 10 people, there was infighting between them. So safe, because it's only 4.5 acres. So, 4.5 acres, you only want 2 or 3 people. And it's, say, if you've got the syndicate members, thing with carp, everyone likes to do a bit of baiting up, have their little spot going or whatever. And just with 10 people on 4.5 acres, it didn't really work, especially just when it's just a 3-month ticket, because everyone wanted to go every weekend.
Yeah.
And so that's when we started looking at doing the bookings instead, and doing bookings over those 3 months. So rather than do a 10 people a ticket, we just do week bookings. So we did, it was 12 bookings of 1 week each, and that worked really well, filled up no problems. And everyone said, can we book again for next year? Took the bookings for next year, and then I went a little bit longer, and then the next year I knocked trout fishing on the head and just did bookings all year round.
Yeah,
that was like a leap of faith, because obviously trying to fill a carp fishing slot in the middle of December, crikey, no one's going to want to go, but it's been busy, and it actually fishes really good in November, December, January. Just the nature of the water, it's actually been quite successful. But that was the leap. And the other thing with the trout fishing is again, I just didn't know that. I like trout fishing myself. I have some trout fishing tickets. I love it. I just don't always agree with everyone else's ethics. What they're doing. Some anglers wanted to catch as many fish as they could. Bang, 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 knock them all on the head. Then you start seeing the fish in the bin, like I said, and you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I think I recently had a conversation with some friends that weren't into fishing, and they're asking the efficacy of angling, and they're confused. A lot of people are confused in carp fishing. You put the fish back and they can't get their head around that. And then they think, is that fair? Well, the alternative is we kill them. Is that fair? And it's like, if it wasn't for our industry, carp would have, it's a big industry now. And without angling, and if it was banned as such, then the carp would sort of cease. Where would we be? It's a difficult one.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. It is difficult. Fishing's changed though, everything goes back these days. Even down to 20 years ago, you'd see pictures of keep nets full of you can like bream, big bearing heads, pike, even in keep nets I've seen like from the 70s and 80s. You just don't really even have that side anymore. They're a lot more looked after. I guess there's fishery management that's come in a lot in those last 20 or 30 years. But I know a massive spike in the quality of fishery management, I'd say.
Yeah, I think as well because when they say, this same conversation, they said, do they feel pain? And it's like, well, yeah. And then they dig into, is that fair? And you think, well, if we say we weren't here, we banned it, lakes there'd be no incentive to manage them in the way that they are. And you see how these lakes come, like some of the wildlife lakes that come completely overgrown, engulfed by shade and the leaf fall going in. They have some really eutrophic environments. And
stagnant.
Smelly. Yeah, and like as well with the way we fence our fisheries to protect them from otter predation and things like that. In fact, on the water park here, we can go up the road to the wildlife reserves where they're not fenced, and you can look out there and it's pretty bleak what's out there. Yeah,
so when you say that, so next to Churn is a nature reserve essentially behind the hotel, and on a winters, so we're fenced. We have a fence all the way around. Next door is a wildlife lake. You can walk around. It's like a nature path, full of ducks usually, like in an evening, like a December evening, for instance. So you get all the seagulls and the coot and everything on there. soon as an otter goes in, you hear all up in the air, and they all come and land on churn instead.
Yeah.
Because they know it's safe, it's fenced off, and the otter can't get them.
It's funny how they know it.
Yeah. I just know they're just coming next door, but it's a safe environment. But
yeah, I think that's something that should be more widely sort of promoted, that what we're doing to protect actually what fencing is doing for the wildlife. And you think, that just opened my eyes. We went down the road literally from the wildlife reserve, fenced lake, and it was just swamped with wildlife. And you think, that's it. I wish they could see that. That's
safe environment. It's tricky. Like I think I mentioned before, and when you put a fence around, you're also fencing things out. I know you're fencing the otter out. But anything else that you get, we used to have like deer jump in the river and things like that. And it should be great to see it if you've got your rods out and you're led on your bed, there's deer swimming across the lake. And it's a great thing to see.
Yeah.
You don't get that anymore. Yeah. But you also got fish to fish for because the otters are ravenous.
Have you had any experiences with the otters at Churn?
Yeah, loads in the past.
Right.
So I can't remember what year it was, probably 2006, 2007 maybe. So we have the River Churn runs around the outside us. I noticed a couple of carp on the bank. Trout actually start with. I noticed a few trout. I thought the herring's been in, all the cormorants. You always get a few. I noticed a big carp on the bank, and it just had like what do you call it, like the intestine section at the front, like the good bits, the liver and the heart maybe gnawed out of it. And I thought, fucking hell, there was some foxes at it. It took me 5 or 6 fish to think, what's going on here? This is before mainstream kind of otter fencing, I guess you call it. Whoever was on the ball, I thought, well, mink must be a mink. They sort of go around where they're trying to find the mink, get rid of that. But all of a sudden they put a fence up super fast, or straight down countrywide. Much chicken mesh as I could get at the time, big rolls, and then he sort of a load of posts, knocks in with a post whacker. You just twig, and I sort of can't remember where I read it, or someone said it might have been Simon Scott even. What's Simon actually? Yes, I sort of mentioned the fish thing. So he's just like otter straight away, otter. Yeah. And then he said he wouldn't sell me any fish until I've otter fenced it. So I was like, what if I can manage myself and my brother actually? There's a few things. I actually knocked myself out at a post ram. You put them down if he catches sometime. I think it's the second post I did. I caught the thing, knocked myself clean out. So it's put me back a few days, but flip the fence round. And obviously, when you do it a little bit of Heath Robinson, you get a few problems. I didn't work out when they came in, reinforce that. But since then we've done it again properly. We had to redo the riverbank and put something a bit more sturdy in, but it did the job. But otters, rife. I've got a stock pond at the top, and again there's a little breach in the fence there. It's still always the way. Like it's snowing, I thought I've got no anglers covering it, so I left it for a few days. Didn't walk around. Go back to 3 fish on the bank, and then train of footsteps at the thing. Crikey, that was actually a broken branch. Actually, come across. You have to be wary of all the anything that changing environment. So you've got a tree that cracks over, they just climb over the tree and dip their way back out again. I did a video for YouTube at home when I had an otter getting into a fenced pond that I'd otter fenced, and I was trying to figure out how it got in, and put trail cameras up for a few weeks, and it was really interesting. So you go weeks of seeing nothing. Well, you see wildlife, and then you'd have like a night where all the cameras picking up loads. So it's really interesting to see how they behave, and how they're almost like terriers when they get into an area and they're everywhere. They're like hunting. Like the pack hunting.
And then they're gone.
Yeah.
But you see it around the park as well, where you're fishing unfenced sort of park lakes, that when they get on and you have them on one evening, the fishing tends to die for a few days, I find.
It does. It really knocks it.
Yeah.
That was one of the sort of symptoms, if you like. It makes you think you look a little bit harder. Like, you have patterns, especially sort of coming into the autumn. It should be most like fish then that's off. You have like a couple of weeks and you get plenty of bites. If you have a week with bites and then all of a sudden your anglers aren't getting any bites, you think, right, what's changed? The weather's same-ish, and now you've got big low pressures, they should be getting bites. That's when you might find a breach in the fence. You think something's been in, even if there's no fish, even just going through that fence, having to swim around, it spooks them.
Yeah.
But then saying, I've been fishing before and I've had an otter swim across and got to take right underneath it.
Really?
Yeah, just at the range, Which was, I was just about to reel in and pack up. As soon as you see an otter, jumped up. But walking down to the rod. Wow. That's surprising.
Got an otter.
Yeah.
So back to Churn with the booking model that you got.
Yeah.
Obviously, it must be nice to have groups of parties that are there for sort of a family event and you're seeing them enjoying themselves, and
Yeah.
it's people that you can control and invite onto your property. But
Yeah.
is there any negative stories or negative part of having parties on your property like that?
Sometimes.
I hate
So-
negative.
No, that's cool. So I'm going to go both ends of the scale. So I've just come from there now.
Yeah.
I've just been and checked in, said hello to the guys. So at the moment, I've got a granddad. Well, I've got a guy, basically. There's 2 sons and their 2 sons. So I've got 3 generations. It's half term this week. So the granddad's, he's got first eyes for what we got arrived on Monday. Rod's gone off. He's had a £39 or something happy as well.
Wow.
His 2 sons, they've let their 2 sons go first, and they've had they caught a couple of doubles, a couple of 20s, and it's good to see all. I mean, the youngest one there is about 12. I'm just going back. He's there float fishing. It's like the perfect scenario. Basically, they've got a place to themselves, lovely family, really just happy. And they're out this obviously blazing sun at the moment. So they're like basking in the sun. They're having a great time. On the other hand, you get some people come in. And there's not many negatives, to be honest. Most people are really cool. Well, if I could write, a model of the best customers, I'd have that 99.9% of the time. But you get a couple of people that like fish at all costs. I don't know. Maybe they're pressured to get a fish picture for their bait company or tackle company or whatever. They like to be in the limelight. That's the only negatives I really see.
Yeah.
My bugbear's unattended rods. So at my place, you go and you got the car park, lots of people fish close. It's easy to get anywhere, but I've been in before and there's been a rod over on the far side. It's 200-300 meters away. And it's just like a single rod sat there. So I can skip that in and, turn them off and come back round. But that sort of mentality, and that's when I am there. I don't, if it happens at night time or whatever, I wouldn't know. But it is rare. It's rare you get that. I've had one group, I think it's one of the World Cup games, I popped my head in and they were had too many stellas. They were on the roof of the lodge, having a pint, and I was like, oh God, right, just trying to raid them in. Only young lads, 20 or 21, something.
Did they come back?
They have been back since. One of them, he phoned me up. Actually, they did phone me up, so they were in for the weekend. They phoned me up on the Monday and apologised, and I didn't see him for a couple of years, and one of them came back, and he just sort of come straight across and said, "Yeah, sorry about that last one." And but they wouldn't cause any trouble. It's just probably just a little bit outside safety regulations as such. But fishing wise, most people are really good. So I always check with people there, and you can gauge it to a certain extent. Like I know if you turned up, for instance, and I just say your rigs are sound, that sort of thing.
Might not.
I get absolutely, you never know. But there's some people that need a little bit more help than others. So I spend a bit of time with them, make sure their rigs are sound in terms of just safety, but they want to catch some fish as well. So, there's some, if they haven't tied them up properly, you see some guy, they've got if they're tying a knotless knot, for instance, they might put the out the wrong side of the eye. That silly little things, but might make a difference between catching and not catching. So
there's always
absolutely. That's the big one.
There's I always find with small waters, not that 4 acres is a reasonable size, but definitely with bookings, I find that people are there for a bit of a holiday. They might make a bit of noise. Do you find that there's this small water syndrome that when the fish switch off to things like that, if
can do. So the what will switch the fish off is to turn up and stick a marker float out.
Okay.
Obviously, they've had the guys that do the best go in and go really quietly. So they'll sort of set up away from the bank, creep around the far side, and drop them short. Like fishing short always is much better than fishing the long, for instance. But they don't shut up shop when people go in. It's just if they make a lot of splashing around, that's their thing. I know it's great to go in and find your spots and stuff, but I guess I see less of that because I get more and more repeat customers. So they come in ready prepared. Yeah. They almost know, if they're first or second out the draw, they know where they want to be and they're dropping straight on the spots and they're catching fish really quickly. A lot of people do those, which is great to see. But some people turn up maybe for the first time with like 20 kilo buoy or whatever, like buckets, but I'm going to smash it. And I spend all the time spotting and go over the tail between the legs. Yeah. Whereas if they'd just walk around the other side with like a little bag or something and drop them in, it might have done a little bit better. Yeah.
I think what seeded that small water syndrome idea was when as a kid, I was fishing this tiny little lake near me. It was, it would have been probably 1/4 of an acre and I'd carp in it to like mid-20s, which back then as a kid, it was a big fish.
Big fish, yeah.
So you turn up and, there'd be no one there. It's really just like village ponds as such. And then you catch the first one straight away, and then you probably won't catch anything for another day or two. That's what made me think.
Yeah, it's interesting.
You go to other bookings places where, like you've just said, people will turn up quite heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Turning up like they're on a 30-acre pit and filling it in, and then it's just quiet.
Indoors it, yeah. So one of the best angling I've seen lately. We've got a customer called Sam who comes in the summer with his family. He's got, comes with his wife and two small children. And he'll bait up about 10 spots, go around the lake, bait 10 or 12 spots maybe. And put a couple of landing nets around and just take like 2 rods and fish 2 spots within sort of, 5 meters apart. He'll fish those for a bit, catch a fish. And he'll just go around and go and fish the other spots and just fish his way around the lake.
Yeah.
I think in a couple of days last time, he had like 18 fish. Didn't even fish during the day. He went out, took his kids out during the day, came back in the afternoons and evenings and fished really well. But that was good angling.
Yeah.
Like perfect for that sort of lake.
Yeah. I think the way modern angling has gone, it is quite heavy-handed, isn't it? And quite industrial with heavy rods. And this all seems so clumsy. Whereas I think there's so much more sport to be had in soft gear and light stuff. And like Sexy's been around.
A lot more enjoyment.
What do you think of that? The modern angling scene now, do you think it's making a positive? It seems like it's taken kind of probably positive and a negative when it turns to like the urban style of it, which some people might see that as it comes across quite chavvy and a bit of against what the countryside is. But is that also bringing a new demographic from perhaps the rural scene that's transitioning into the countryside?
So I've grown up on the rural scene. So if there's 2 or 3 people where I'm fishing, I'm off. I don't fish. I've just been spoiled, growing up around here. That we can always go somewhere else or spend half my time like on out big lakes, nature reserves, that sort of thing. But I guess a lot of people have grown up. Where you fish, you just get a peg where you can. Like if you're at linear, for instance, you drop it in because there's 1 peg left out of 30. So there's 2 ends of the scale there. But like you say about the urban sort of guys, they're on their toes. So if they're fishing, and they're looking all the time, they're quite active anglers I've seen. So I've had people at the Churn, they actually do quite well. Put them on a different environment, they're like shit hot anglers. They're quite refined.
That's true.
We should take like the lazier angler like myself maybe. It's I struggle fishing where they fish. The people around, I can't fish here. It's a different scenario.
It's giving them a different look on it.
From the modern sort of thing, obviously there is a trend towards bigger gear, heavier gear. Technology is a big one. How much I embrace it. So for instance, drones get used a lot. Great for information, gathering information, video work. We wouldn't really want your anglers using drones too much, especially if you've got a busy place. I get some guys using them on mine, and it does highlight, especially in the winter, and it will show you just that the fish are a foot below the surface half the time. They're just enjoying the sunshine. We are. And it does lead to some extra fish on the bank. It's not intrusive to anyone else. Problem is, if you take it to somewhere that's busy, you can't be popping drones up or again, bait boats. I don't have many rules is one thing, but bait boats actually encourage them for certain anglers because it's a quiet. It gets them going. It's very quiet, and they can obviously they have the what do you call that? The little thing like sonar type things that go on it, so they can see, especially if they're first timers, they can see that it's like an egg box. And then fishing sense, we're not fishing on top of the bar and wasting their time. Sometimes they're fishing at the bottom. So I quite embrace that sort of side of it and the quietness of the boat. There's a lot of overkill as well. There's the GPS where we put it back on the same spot every time. And I think when I see the guys using that on my place, it's 4 acres, it's 100 yards across. You can cast anywhere. Like most people, as long as you're able-bodied, you can cast anywhere or walk around to anywhere, which I'd always encourage just to get them to get a bit more enjoyment. But I guess I'm not everyone. Some people might enjoy using the tech. That's another thing. As long as they're enjoying it and not affecting anyone else, that's the other way to look at it, I suppose.
Yeah.
So,
and we've seen quite a bit in working with fisheries that since COVID, fishing did great out of COVID.
Yeah.
Have you found now, a lot of people are saying now we've settled back in and things have settled down again. Have you found business to sort of return to COVID or pre-COVID?
No, we've been busier, I'd say. COVID was a great leveler for a lot of people, I'd say, in the fishing trade. It got a lot of people fishing. I think it made people appreciate the outdoors and everything a little bit more. So in terms of booking wise, we've been busy with my other business in the rods. We had a big spike. There was a big uptake in COVID, obviously. So we did good business there. It's come down, like the trend's it's come down slightly from what COVID levels were, but it's still higher than what it was pre-COVID.
Right. Okay.
But I think I've seen there's a big swoop of people, and maybe it's just like families taking an extra person with them, and they've got into it, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's definitely it was good for the fisheries industry, I'd say.
Yeah, I spoke to a lot of people that said that COVID was great, or after COVID. Yeah. And then a lot of places said, particularly bookings models, these bookings have been harder. And it's interesting the way I know like a lot the fish farming scene as well. It's all become getting a bit saturated now, and it's getting harder. I thought, but it's interesting.
That's still the same amount of people going. I'd say there's a lot more places you can book. Like from my point of view, in terms of competition of fisheries you can go to, there's a lot more places that are booking places. I see it with the trout fisheries, like a lot of trout fisheries are closed down, same as I did. There's just not the market there for them as there used to be. Right. I see some of those are turned into carp fisheries. I think there's more competition, I would say, for the bookings, you want to get the people in at the weekends. It's more, so definitely more saturated. The average public's got more choice of places to go as well, which is great. People doing it. There's lots of on the booking venues. There's lots of ones with accommodation as well. Right, and lots of people doing really beautiful accommodation. The only problem with that is that the price prices the average angler out of a weekend's fishing.
I know my next question.
Right. So I'm very conscious of what I said. So people say to me, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? We could redevelop, we could put 4 lodges on it, I guess, and do that sort of model, which is great for your cash flow, but it's not always great for how you want it to be. So my missus kicks me up the arse all the time, says, you should be doing this and this and that. Actually, I just love it as it is. So I often say to people, I just make it somewhere I'd want to go myself. So if I had a weekend and I was going to go and book somewhere, I'd want the whole place to myself. I wouldn't want to be sharing the lake with 2 other people. Yeah. So I keep it that way, and it keeps the price somewhere sensible.
Would you say it's a price-sensitive market, the booking stuff?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. It is a luxury item. I'm very conscious that having a weekend with a lake to yourself is a big luxury. And it's, lots of people work very hard and they treat themselves. But it's not cheap. No. But it is a nice thing to know. You go for the weekend, you've got the lake to yourself, you can go fishing. You haven't got to be fishing against anyone else. Yeah,
I guess, like you say, that argument, if you put 4 more lodges up, doesn't necessarily mean 4 times the revenue, does it?
No, it means 4 times the expenditure. Yeah. You've also then got to fill it. 4 more bookings than I've got to fill every space to make it warrant doing.
The fish take a hammer in and you stop enjoying you do. And
I've had a great big place. Maybe you could do, but it just, on my place, it's not for me. It's not the way I want to do it as such. But
okay. Yeah. And rules. Yep. Do you have any rules that you think are important?
So I'm not anti rules. So I've been to places and they have 20 rules. I've been holiday fishing before. You go to something like the holiday park, so they got 20 rules. And you think, can't go fishing. Actually, I've got a little core on or something. But I don't have many rules. Maximum 3 rods. I think the only one I'm actually really fussy on is using my own nets and mats and slings. A bit of biosecurity. So they're all provided. Fish safely, but most people that are there, I have a relationship with them. I know what's what. I think there's 5 or 6 rules on my website. Rod license. If you go on a boat, got to wear a life jacket. Just like the basics. And if you've got any questions, just ask. If you're unsure, just ask me. If you need some bait, no problem at all. We'll sort you out. If you need me to set you up, no problems at all. I sort of check in with everyone first before they're coming on. Sort of. Especially if I don't know them, what their sort of angling ability is. But I'm not one for a massive. If I go fishing and there's a big list of rules, like even one of my syndicates, I'll probably break half the rules. I'm just not good with it.
It was interesting speaking to when Rich Seed was on, and he said he's got quite a long list of rules. And he said when he started out, people didn't want their ticket or they didn't want to join because there's so many rules. And he said now the fish are massive. People are they're afraid of it now.
Yeah, that's
and it's the fish team is selling.
There's big ones, like a lot of fish ban leg call, for instance, or leaders, because they're not always used safely. Most people with a little bit of education can set them up. what's on the big rules? Braided main lines, things like that. Some people don't allow braid, but no, that's fine. Yeah, you'll see it. You've done a lot of snag removal and things like that. You get some leaders and bits and bobs in the trees, but you can get too many. Again, like you said, the rules can be off-putting. The plastic baits is a lot of people don't allow plastic baits, obviously in the rigs of fishing. But we have crayfish, so I kind of have to allow plastic baits. So they're not crazy crayfish, but people still want to have a bait on and be fishing. So that's not something I can take off the menu as such. But I'm conscious. Like I do, people don't. I keep an eye on people to a certain extent. But if I'm confident in what they're doing, safe, I'll leave them to it.
Do the crayfish cause a problem?
Camden, yeah. So they've been up and down. Because we have the river around the outside, we're always going to have them. Like they're going to naturally come in. Once we put the otter fence around, I'm sure they used to come across the bank a lot more than people give them credit for. So we put the fence around and it stopped a lot of the bigger ones, especially coming in. We have a couple of feeds in there they'll still get in. But we netted them out hard until a couple of years ago. It was, you fish midsummer, you wouldn't know there's crayfish in there. Unless you looked in the edge at night time, you'd see a few. But they're just back in the last year. I think it's a few of the lakes around the park, actually. They must have had a really good spawning season. The conditions were good for them. They've come back again a little bit at the moment. So we've just started trapping again hard.
Okay.
But they do cause trouble, obviously, with the rigs and the baits, even zigs. You'll see like little marks, so they walk the zigs down to, but I guess they can see it at the top and walk them down. But they're not something you can't just, if you've got crays, you have to attend to them.
Yeah.
Just leave them to it. See.
Do you see any change in the trajectory of the progression of the fish following the trajectory of the crayfish?
Yeah, so not just the fish. So fish are steady. Take the crays out. The crays when the crays go down, the fish wait to go in. Is what we saw. And that's because we obviously supplementing the feed, but there was a definite trend.
Okay.
I can't say it's gone down now the crays come back, but it's definitely helped them to go up. I guess they get more of the food. The other thing that's come back a lot is it's a lot weedier.
Yeah.
Less crays, the weeds got up. That's a big thing. With when it's a trout fishery, we used to have to treat the weed. I kind of what that father used. Obviously, they used to rake it out, and they used to treat it sometimes with the dye to keep it down. As if you're trout fishing it, weeds, it's a nightmare. And so it took a little while to re-establish it. Then we were planting it, putting snails back in and stuff just to get it all reworking again. And it took a few years. But as soon as we started dipping the crays levels went down. The weed took hold again in a good way, like a managed, like a controlled weed coming back. And everything flourishes then. They fly live.
Right.
The fish are really happy. They've got plenty of spaces to go into, a bit of sanctuary.
Do you think that's just the nature of the crayfish disturbing the lake bed to stop the weed from establishing, or?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I should know more about it. I don't. I just see the trends.
Yeah.
It's there's definite correlation between the two.
Do you have to do much to manage the weed? Do people moan about that, the anglers you get?
Sometimes, yeah. You can't tell until a few weeks' time. Obviously, you get blazing at the moment and the water's clear. It's going to grow quite fast now. But we do, obviously, there's areas that get weedy before others. So we do rake it out occasionally. If the guys are fishing from the front of my lodge across, there's a couple of big weed beds in the middle that come up and the fish can go around them if you hook one, which is not great. So we try and take those out if we need to. I try and leave all the marginal bits and bobs because there's like I say, it's a good sanctuary for the fish as well. But yeah, it's just have to manage it a little bit.
Yeah.
If it was, if I had 10 guys I know as a syndicate and you all knew what they were up to and are happy with them all going out on the boat to get the fish out, not quite so bad though.
Yeah.
Weekend anglers, they don't want to be getting stuck in weed. They don't want to be fluffing around wasting time. They want to turn up, go fishing, get the fish in.
Yeah.
An hour on the weed bed.
I'm quite vocal with like how I stand on lake dies. Where do you?
Not keen.
Not keen. No.
Not keen on the dice. I don't know. Where do you stand?
I
have to look at you like this, but I'm not keen.
No, for me, it's commercial. It seems like with fisheries, we're a natural aquatic environment, and I think stepping in on that level to interfere with a natural process that's trying to happen within your fishery to draw the nutrients out. There's fisheries that use dye successfully to combat weed. That doesn't compromise the growth of the fish. They say it doesn't compromise the growth of the invertebrate life. It doesn't sit well with me. I just feel like there's a natural process that through evolution, this process has happened, and that's how our aquatic organisms that's how they've learnt to function over the years. Why are we stepping in to interfere with such a vital part of like water quality and water chemistry?
Again, especially when you obviously, because you dig in the ponds as well, you know how hard it is to get things established. Some water qualities or lakes will have things that just flourish, and you may want to knock them back slightly. I get the dyes if you've got a hotel and you've got a pond out the front, you want to look pretty for your guys, and there's not much in the way of fish life in there. Well, then put a little bit of dye in there, make it look like a Caribbean. That's cool. But on the bigger fishery side, I'm not keen. I've fished places before and it just knocks it on the head as well. I've been fishing, they've been throwing out the bags, like the PVA bags, whatever it is, with the dye in. And you can see the dye just skip it once and go home. It's just not great. Long term, yeah, it does help with the weed. Obviously, the light can't get through. But there's probably other ways to manage it, I'd say.
Absolutely.
Maybe more intensive, but probably better long term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the lake dyes, I think it's as from an outside point of view, looking at what fisheries has become and manipulating an environment which is evolved naturally. I think it puts angling in a bit of a bad light. Although you can see like water sports want it, don't they?
Yeah. Weed. That's it. And again, not every angling environment is a natural environment.
No.
Some lakes are dug to be weed-free, dyed, and just stock it full of funny-looking fish and go and catch a fish and put them out. Not everyone wants to go fishing somewhere different as well.
Yeah.
So if the lake was heavily dyed, personally, I probably wouldn't fish there. It's not.
No, that's where I am. I turn up to a lake and it's bright blue. I feel like it's like when you put the bloody sides up at bowling. It's couldn't you?
So it's
your gill.
Yeah.
If there's no weed, I feel like the weed part of handling.
Yeah, interesting. There's a lake I fished up the roads, the other end of the Spine Road, that fished really well. Fished it for a year, fished really well. Had a great time. Dyed it, just knocked it off. But it also knocked off because it knocked off everything.
Yeah.
There was no life in the water. The bottom of the lake turned from being weedy and it's just like the moon.
Yeah.
Even the crayfish was like really tight, but I know they were being trapped as well. But I don't know how much it affected ours on them. It can't be good for them, but they were noticeably a lot less as well.
Yeah.
It just ruined the fishing. Like the enjoyable, like we used to have little weedy bays. Well, that was all gone.
I think the bigger problem with dye is more with commercial high stock fisheries that are worried about. They want to put loads of fish in there because they think it's going to make great fishing or match fishing. Yeah. And then they have a problem with algae. So then they use dye as a solution. But the problem is the fish, not the algae, because the fish are producing a lot of ammonia, the food going in this overstocked environment, and they look out for an external solution to fix that. And I think
big plaster on it.
Yeah,
there's still a problem on the
last one. Yeah, is the fish. And I think it's become a solution to something that's actually, and it's, if you get an algal bloom, there's a reason for it. You should dig into why that is, not cover it up.
Yes,
it makes sense. So I don't think, from a ecological point of view, in gravel pits like we deal with around here, I don't think it's as impactful as it is in commercial. But it still doesn't sit right with me how it. Is a solution.
Going back to the algae bloom there, I remember even as a kid, my dad used to get I think it's Christmas tree netting. He had the massive long things and fill it full of the straw. We used to dip those in the lake. So he used to take it out and ferment. It's a time-proven method. It doesn't look great, but it works. For 25 years we've sort of done that. We even now in the height of summer I get an algae bloom. Not like crazy, not like a blue algae or anything, but it's noticeable in certain conditions. If I'd have dyed it, I may not get that. But if I dye it, it causes more harm than it does good in my eyes.
I think so.
So the positives don't outweigh the negatives. In my case, anyway.
Yeah,
I'm sure that a lot of fisheries around the park here would say the same thing.
Yeah, being on a water table and not being able to control the water levels, is that get in the way of
tricky? Yeah. So again, we have the river around the outside. There's further up and further down. They have like flood plains and meadows, and they play with those sometimes. But when it rains a lot, we get flooded. The river rises, and it doesn't always go over the top of the banks, but it does saturate some of our water. So we have, with any sort of 6-week period, we can have about a foot of variance, usually, average through the year. It's really good having the fresh water coming in all the time. It's like a godsend. Most of the time we have small extraction. It comes into the lake. It keeps fresh water. Cooler in the summer. It's actually a little bit warmer in the winter. I've measured the levels. That's helpful. But in terms of flooding, it can be tricky. Sometimes, I think this year was one of the worst, actually. It was 6 or 7 weeks you couldn't walk around the lake without a pair of waders on. Definitely couldn't fish along the far bank, not safely. And it does, obviously, the banks get a bit of a hammer in. There's a little pass there. They can come in to get a bit of a hammer in. You can't do your tree work. I've got trees I've cut down in January or so. I've still not been able to chip them yet. So it can make things a little bit tricky. But again, there's benefits and negatives. The benefits are on the fresh water on the outside certainly outweigh the negatives of the flooding. When on the sort of, when I used to be a trout fishery, I think it's the big flood. It's like 2009. I think we had a big flood then. It was like June, I think it was. And I've been driving back. I've been on board with a new car, and I was driving back, and the roads are flooded. I got to the lake, and I could see, turning in through the gate, and at the far end, it was just like glass. Like there was no bank between the lake and the river. So I walked around there, put my waders, I walked around there, and the fucking trout were jumping out and down the river. So there's all these money's worth of trout jumping out down the river. I'm like, no. And I had this big seine net. So I got all my bank sticks and my fence posts and bits. And I was just hanging out a net to stop the fish going out. I was just probably a little bit earlier than that. I remember 2007. It was just before we put an otter fence up. You didn't get things like that. No, it must happen all the time in waters.
And you've got the other extreme in the summer where it's dead low and you're worrying about its quality and
banging the aerators on to get some oxygen back in.
You have to do that.
In the past, yeah. I've never had touch wood. I've never had a problem with the oxygen levels. I've measured it. It goes lower than you'd want, but I've never had a problem with like fish gasping or anything. But we have got aerators we put on pumps and just want it to be the best environment it can be.
Yeah,
keep the fish active, healthy.
Yeah, it's good to have them on standby when you need them, isn't it? When we turn up somewhere and they've got them on 24/7, it's a bit like felt like a bit too
a bit too much. It's, you want the best environment, but you shouldn't have too much air, I guess, or too much oxygen sometimes. I know.
Yeah, if you've got it, when you've got aeration, if you were to have a problem, you've got a solution there to back up. And when you have a problem, if you've got them on all the time and you have an issue, where'd you go now?
That's true. And I think the other thing it comes with experience. Maybe you can see when you're going to get a problem. Is when you're 10 or 15 years down the line into your fishery management sort of experience on the water, it's different for every water. And so this weather front's coming in. It's been like this it's been red hot for 2 weeks, and we've got a big front coming in. Maybe going to need a bit more oxygen. You can flick those on a couple of days in advance. You're covered. It's peace of mind. But if you didn't have them, you might just be sitting in bed about thinking, God, I hope the fish aren't all up on the top in the morning,
It's the same with auto feeders. People come to me and ask, what automatic feeders would you recommend? And to be honest, I've tried them, and I want to be seeing the water every day to see what's happening. When there's always aligns with the change in the water clarity or fish behaviour, and you need to be on that straight away. If you don't pick up on these changes in water quality early, and then you don't see these weather fronts coming in, if you just got auto feeders happening feeding and fish every day, and you think it's out of sight, out of mind, that's when the issues happen.
Not checking, Again, it must be different, because maybe a slightly different environment, especially if you're growing fish. They're slightly more densely populated, probably, so you have to be on it even more.
Yeah, it's definitely different where I'm farming fish in clay ponds. We kind of, with all the content we produce, I always have in my mind my ponds, which are always a clay substrate, but it's a completely different environment to up here in the water park, where you got gravel pits, very crystal clear water, heavy sediment. In a clay pond, they're very fertile. The fish recruitment's insane every year. You got your year kind of evolves around how good that recruitment's been in the summer. So if you have some years where you might get a couple £100 a carp come through, you have other years it's thousands of pounds. And that's all to do with the clay substrate and the mineral content. That's as soon as the fry hatch, they're onto single-celled algae and the mineral content of the clay substrate. But in the water park where you haven't got that, and it's heavy sediment, everything's dropped out of the water, crystal clear. You get a rooted weed system, which is drawing all the nutrient out of the water. You don't get the recruitment that you get in a clay pond. So there is definitely two different types of fishery management there.
I think if I speak for the water park in general, it's not great for growing carp, like naturally. Lots of spawn has been taken out and grown on and introduced, but so they say about the clay ponds, if all the water park lakes were fertile in terms of carp growing, they'd be full of carp. It'd be fantastic. But unfortunately, everything else seems to grow apart from the carp, like perch, roach especially. They reproduce fantastic. But the carp are one that just don't really. You can go to many waters and say, "Oh, that's self-seeded."
No,
that's one thing it doesn't have on the park.
That's what I mean with the clay substrate, and that being great for recruitment and for the production of fry and the first feeding fish, whereas actually in the water park here, it's more suited to more mature fish where you've got bigger invertebrate life that use the weed as the habitat. So it's almost a different ecosystem.
Yeah.
And that's what is. I probably don't segregate those two systems enough in my man. It can be quite easy to generalize when you come to the sort of content you produce with good fishery management. Well, actually, gravel pit sort of systems are pretty low, less intensive management plans than a clay system at home. Like if I miss a year, if I didn't net one of my ponds at home for a year, it would be chaos. All the fish would stop growing. You'd have loads of fry coming through. Up here, you wouldn't have that. Like you say,
that's it. They take a little bit less tending to, maybe we're a bit lenient on terms of fishery management, but you still need a plan in place. You need to know what you're doing in advance, I'd say.
Yeah, it's interesting as well with the stocking density. Some people, like some fish farmers, would encourage you to in gravel pits like this to introduce more fish to get that agitation and get the substrate agitated, because I think there's two ends of the scale with stocking densities and gravel pits. You can either go ultra low, where it's a completely natural environment, barely any fish, and the other end of the scale where there's loads of fish, where actually they're keeping that turbidity in the water, which creates a really fertile environment. And sometimes in the middle doesn't do the best.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Interesting.
I always get the ones that you've got 10 acres and 5 fish. You'd expect those 5 fish to do really well.
Yeah.
But if those 5 fish aren't of a good strain in the first place, you're sort of wasting your time a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's probably another part of the high stocking density. So if you put 500 fish into a lake, if 10% of them, because it generally is a 10% of any batch will fly.
Shooters,
and if you got 10% of a batch of 500, you've got 50 big fish, haven't you? So if you've got 10 fish, make the maths easier.
Yeah,
10% of them, you've got one which might crack on. But it's there's a lot to be said about stocking density.
I think it's for different anglers as well. Yeah, I don't know. Some people like to fish for 5 fish and have many acres. It's a bit more of a challenge. But
is there anything else in churn that any other species that?
All sorts. Yeah. So there's some cracking bream at the moment. The bream came through from the jet ski lake many years ago. There never used to be any bream. It used to be basically just trout and carp and some pike and roach essentially. But we've always had big roach. It's been well known for big roach in the past. I think one year, again, going back years, 20, 25 years, we used to have a little break in the summer. It needs to be, it might even still be there. It's called Sheet Metal Angling. One of the big factories in Swindon used to come out and have a match, like a course fishing match. I think there was 20 of them one day. I think 18 of them caught £2 plus roach. So they would go around there like the first match they ever had. They caught these massive, massive roach. That lasted a couple of years, and also like we get the cycles going through. They all sort of died off or went missing. There's some big perch. Again, there's a thing. We're catching big perch on live baits when I was pike fishing. It's about 3.5 pound perch, and on pike baits essentially. But they're just coming back in at the moment. So I'm noticing those at the moment. They've just been spawning. Right. And then around the crayfish traps, you can see the big perch hanging around at the bottom. So they're looking good at the moment. Some musk pike. When it was a trout fishery, we used to do some monsters. Since the trout are gone, not so much. There's a 26 pound. I think it's 26, just over 26 caught last year, which is a really nice fish. Not to me, unfortunately. I'm going to have to go for it this winter.
Yeah.
I'm really into my pike.
With pike, because there seems to be a trend with trout fisheries and big pike, doesn't there? Yeah. So that big one you got, is that growing, or do you have to stop fit trout to keep that?
No. So if it wasn't a carp, I'd love to put trout in there to feed the pike.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it now. They'd eat all the carp bait all the time. People would be catching trout and it wouldn't work. But yeah, trout fisheries make the best pike lakes for sure, 110%.
Yeah. We
We used to have pike that would get caught, and they're the length of a 15 pounder and they're 30 pound. They're like barrels.
Yeah.
I remember being a kid, and I sort of rang up on the phone and went down with my dad, and this guy's got this huge pike in the sack. Get it out, and it's just these lovely spotted flags. But it's just deep, it's like a foot deep. Just this huge belly on it. But since the trout have gone, the big pike have definitely.
Right.
Well, the other thing, no one really fishes for them.
No.
Carp. It's rare. I think like the guys that float fishing, but I don't get many people that come and actually target the pike or target the roach anymore.
No.
Which is kind of sad too. But,
yeah, I think there's a lot to be said with pike. Like, growing up, you flick through the angling time and see some massive pike. And I've been working with Andy for a long time and going around lots of different venues. And to see a 20-pound pike is a rare thing to see now.
So even on the water park, they used to be really common.
Yeah.
There was lots of 20-pound pike about.
That's to do with that. Food pressure? Do you think like angling, like I always look at pike as they use their energy in bursts, so they reserve their energy and to they're an ambush species, so
Yeah.
they're not. Never in their life are they to endure a long battle but on a rod.
Yeah.
So I feel like, is that something to do with it, that the angling pressure?
I think some of it's angling pressure, bad handling. The education in carp fishing is through the roof. Education of pike angling is through the floor. It's the other way. There is a lot of information about, but people just don't seem to see it sometimes. But the other thing's food. Obviously, cormorants have decimated a lot of the fish stocks, and especially in the nature reserves. Not that long ago, you go there in an evening, there's fish topping everywhere. But now all you see is the cormorant on the buoys, especially in the winter, and they're flapping their wings out, fat as a pig. I think they've taken a lot of the food fish away, which has knocked some of the pike in on the head. But there's been some big pike about the last few years.
Yeah.
There's some nice captures kicking around, which is good to see.
I wonder if the otters have hit them as well.
Yeah, probably, yeah. They're obviously they're quite adept pike. They're hard to see. Like when you catch one, you put it back, it disappears in no time compared to a carp. Probably a little bit harder for an otter, but they would have hit the stocks a little bit.
Yeah, you see a lot of small pike and pike that look very lean and unwell.
Yeah, a lot of lean ones. There's a lake off again. We keep referencing lakes up the road, but a lake off fish up the road. Lots of doubles. You can go. There's one that's full of pike. Lots of doubles, and out of 20 fish, you might catch a fat one.
Right.
And I'm growing up as a kid, I used to go piking all the time. There'd be loads of fat fish, you'd be catching a fish, and unhooking it, and your fingers in the gills. I'd be pulling like other fish out of it where it's been eaten and just gorging itself. There's so many fish, but I haven't seen that for a long time.
Yeah.
It's interesting though.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Is there many pike anglers around the park?
A few.
Yeah.
A few. Not as many as there used to be.
No. I say it seems to be transitioning down, like angling, like carp angling has become quite commercial, and it's kept the interests of the younger generations with tech and things.
Yeah, the pike angling has suffered keeping up with the times, I'd say. One is not the open access venues like they used to be. You could just rock up to a lot of the lakes, or they'd have a lot more lakes on a ticket, for instance, that you knew had pike. And even on the South Cerny ticket, you could go to Hills or Bradley's or Brevin. You could fish 3 or 4 venues in a day until you caught one, basically. But that sort of thing around here has stopped slightly. You're a bit more penned in maybe where you're going fishing for the day. That's definitely changed. So I think that puts some of the pike anglers off.
Yeah.
Just lack of access to venues.
I was listening to a theory the other day as well, that because we've become humans have become, you can get what you want when you want it on your phone, you can scroll through, and because that's affected our attention spans as a species, but angling seems to be, it could get hit by us getting bored and not being able to get what we want when we want it.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Interesting, I think.
It's true. It's I
speak to mates that live in London, and they say they couldn't live where we live because they can't get a bottle of milk just by tapping on their phone. It turns up at their door.
That's it. It's just like I'm at home. You know where I live, but my local shop's 2 miles away. I'll just go without milk for the night. But most people, if you lived in London, you'd have it delivered to your door, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But then
way of life.
I couldn't live in the city like that, but they probably couldn't live where we live and being remote and all of that.
Yeah, but I wouldn't change it. This is a good place to live.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the conversation, Tom. I really enjoyed that, learning more about you. I've known you for quite a while, but I've not necessarily learned so much about the fishery, which I now have.
You have to know more often, Ben.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is great, and it's obviously I had the envision that the bookings model was suffering in recent years, so I thought the conversation was going to go a little bit different to how it did. So yeah, I learned a lot there. And
to be honest, I reckon I could sell it 2 or 3 times over. I'm well known. I'm terrible to get hold of on the phone. I just struggle with time. Feed up with children. Yeah, obviously cutting businesses, whatever. I do struggle, but wherever possible, I get people in.
I've heard a saying the other day: if you want something done, ask someone who's busy.
Yeah.
You ask someone who's got loads of time, then they don't want to help you.
That's very true.
So very true. So on that, thank you very much, Tom.
Really
enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.